5. All right. All right, I'm gonna move us over in
All
3,
right.
2. Well, good afternoon and welcome everyone to our Nicaragua webinar. We're going to just give everyone a quick minute here as they are logging in. But in the meantime, just go over one quick agenda item. We will be doing questions at the end. And if you want to have a question answered, there's a Q&A box at the bottom of your screen. Feel free to find that throughout the webinar. If you have questions, put them in there, and then we will leave some time at the end to go over those. If you want to practice putting something in the chat box, we'd love to hear if you've ever had the chance to visit Nicaragua before. It always helps to know whether folks are looking to come down for their first time, or maybe they're experienced veterans in that. But yeah, we'll talk about that at the end. This session will also be recorded. So I know some of you probably have pen and notepad to take some notes, but we will do a recording of this and send that out in a follow-up for you to have as well. So with that, we're going to go ahead and we'll get started. My name is Joe Nagel. I am one of the property consultants here at ECI Development. Have been for a little over 5 years now, frequently in Nicaragua for our various tours. Also very familiar with Belize, which is another country we're not going to talk about much today, but my family has citizenship there and spend a lot of time there as well. So, but alongside me, you'll see another good-looking, handsome man, Jake here. He's my colleague for today. Jake, if you want to unmute and say a little hello, we'll move on to the rest of the presentation.
Yeah, how's it going, everybody? My name is Jake Lafrenz. I am also a property consultant at ECI Development. I'm one of the newer additions to the team, so this is my first webinar, but I'm absolutely looking forward to this and answering any questions and hopefully give everybody as much information about Nicaragua as possible. I think this is going to be very fun. So thank you for joining us.
Right. Well, thank you, Jake. And for those of you that have joined a few of our webinars, maybe you've seen Mike, he's our CEO. We've got a couple of various conferences going on, so we're kind of all over the place. But, you know, we, ECI as a company, have been around since 1996 and throughout Central America. So I mentioned earlier on that we're going to be talking about Nicaragua today, but we do a lot in Central America, not just in Nicaragua, but have been doing so for almost 30 years. And really our tagline is delivering inspired residences for adventurous souls. So we're going to get into a little bit about the company just to start, but then we're going to really dive into Nicaragua specifically. But since 1996, we've acquired about 4,300 acres throughout 7 countries, a lot of beachfront property. Been doing it for some time. You can see that photo in the top right. That's one of our communities we'll touch on a little bit today, but one of our single family home communities. So with that, this is the agenda for the webinar. So we're going to talk a little bit about why Nicaragua specifically. Then we'll get into living and investing in Nicaragua. That will segue into the part about Gran Pacifica, which is our property specifically in Nicaragua. We'll talk about some of our various communities and opportunities. And then lastly, we'll talk about a great opportunity for folks that are on this webinar to come down and actually see it firsthand. So stay tuned with us. A lot of good information coming your way. If anyone on here has not been to Nicaragua, just a little geographical lesson. Managua is the capital. If you look at my cursor, that's where the bulk of population is on the Pacific side. Gran Pacifica is just about an hour, depending on where you are in Managua with traffic, to the coast. So we're right along the Pacific coast here. So great for any of you who might like surfing. You can see, though, it's sandwiched in between Honduras.
Joe, I think we might have lost you for a second. All right, folks. So it looks like Joe's.
Can you hear me now?
There we go. Now you're back, I think.
All right. Sorry about that. It came through the whole time on my side. So,
All good.
what was the last thing you heard, Jake?
You were talking about Managua and just the areas around there.
Yep. So here's Managua, and then Gran Pacifica is right on the coast. Closest beachfront community to Managua. So a lot of visitors coming out on weekends, also some weddings and things like that. I think, for a lot of folks, when we think of places like Nicaragua, we think about these places that aren't that developed. And I think, that's why coming down and seeing things, it's really quite crazy to see the changes. I mean, this is one of the malls. When we start the tour, we start it in Managua, so folks can have an easy trip into the country. They get right to the hotel, easy access to the mall. So this is one of the malls. I'm actually originally from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and I mean, it's not a big city by any means, but I can tell you that this mall here in Nicaragua is significantly nicer than the malls I have where I'm located. So I think that's always interesting for folks to see, a lot more advanced. That bottom picture is one of the things we do on the tour, which is to see the little private islands in the Lake Managua there. So really, really cool. And, I think for a lot of folks, it's definitely a little bit different than they might expect from what they hear on news and then also have read about over the years. Uh,
Absolutely, Joe. Yeah, just to touch real quick about the mall as well. When I was walking around there, I was really surprised about the kind of stores that they have in there. There's a Garmin store, I think you can maybe see in the picture, a Burberry store, places, even as high end as Gucci store in there as well. And then, of course, even little kiosks that sell supplements. So if you need, your daily supplements, there's a lot of opportunities to secure things like that while living in Nicaragua.
Yep. Yep. And another thing we like to touch upon, there's a lot of various opportunities throughout Central America. This is a curve that Mike put together, the emerging destination curve. You've got places like Cancun, which are really sexy. There's places where a lot of folks go on things like honeymoons. And, for that, if you're buying a property, that's going to cost a pretty good premium to get that cash flow, to get that kind of already mature market. Whereas a place like Nicaragua, which is much lower on this curve, these are the price points you can get into. The market's maybe not as established as it is in places like Panama and Cancun, Costa Rica and whatnot, but you have that opportunity to get in now and then let that rise. I mean, you see El Salvador. I think people always ask like, why El Salvador? Why is that an interest? And honestly, for us a couple of years ago, it wasn't. But now with the whole crypto element, with the safety of El Salvador, that's another future project. But we're not going to get into those details today. But yeah, there's a really great opportunity in Nicaragua to see it as it moves up the curve. So now with that, I'll transfer it over to you, Jake, so you can talk a little bit more about why Nicaragua.
Absolutely, thank you. So one of the things that my first time, I just went to Nicaragua for the first time in March, to be honest with you, and traveling down there and telling people, they were like, "Is it going to be safe?" And absolutely, one of the things that I learned very, very quickly is that it is very safe. Nicaragua is actually one of the safer countries in the tropics, and actually, according to the Global Peace Index, it is safer than most U.S. cities. So it's really one of those things that you think it may be worse than it is. The crime rate is significantly lower than in countries like Mexico, Honduras, and even regions of Costa Rica as well. I'll also touch on affordable real estate, extremely low cost of living, natural and historical treasures, and as well the amazing year-round climate. So if you would take a look at the screen there, you'll see a one-bedroom suite in California oceanfront for $947,000 versus one of our actually listed already one-bedroom oceanfront condos in Nicaragua. Um, Looking at oceanfront, real estate in California, nobody's having a good time looking at that. It is absolutely astronomical prices, and with Nicaragua, you get the $1 million view without breaking the bank. There's actually it's actually $1,000 per square foot on average for a beachfront property in California or in San Diego, I'm sorry. And we see those prices as low as $150 in Nicaragua. So absolutely a lot more bang for your buck without having to discount the amazing amenities that, places along the Pacific Ocean have, for surfing and things like that people love to do in San Diego. And it's just a great opportunity to enjoy sunset every night.
And I will add that the water is warm. A lot of folks in California, that water can be quite cold. Where we are in Nicaragua, it is very warm water. So you get that benefit as well.
Absolutely. No need for wetsuits to go surfing down there, that's for sure.
Yeah.
So also in Nicaragua, you will get the benefit of the extreme low cost of living. The low cost of living is perfect for those transitioning for more buying power from places like the States and other more developed countries. The cost of living is 60 to 70% lower in Nicaragua than it is to major US cities. And people can live comfortably, a couple can live comfortably, working or I'm sorry, can live comfortably on just $1,200 to $1,500 a month. So absolutely more buying power, more freedom with the funds that you currently have. If you take a look at the screen, you can also see a bunch of different shops and opportunities here, to go on more of the infrastructure that Nicaragua provides. Looking at shops like that is great opportunities for fresh products in stores comparable to Whole Foods and Costco and things like that. That was one of the things that also surprised me about Nicaragua is the availability of products that you can find comparable to the US. And then on the bottom of that picture, you can see fresh produce markets that are available a lot in all of the different towns, as well as opportunities that we'll talk more about at Gran Pacifica. And you can see on the left there, it says huge breakfast for $4. That is for real. And it's very, very good. It's a little bit different food down there, which is really, really nice. A lot of different flavors and spices and stuff. Myself, I like spicy food, so that was great for me. And then while I was there, I was pretty much eating steak for every single meal. And I think Joe can attest to that. We were having a good time down there
I was
eating.
going to say the health people on this might not want to hear that, but yes, steak
Yeah,
is so affordable there. You're talking like $10 for very, very high end cuts. So, it makes sense. Whereas in the States, you're paying, depending on where you're going, 30, 40, 50, 70, $100, depending on what city you're in. But yeah, no, and I think one of the things that I always found interesting, especially when I first started going there, is you see like that top left photo of the supermarket. You'll see salespeople in the supermarket selling whatever drinks and stuff, and it's just so clean. It's so well stocked. It's just unbelievable because you'd think, well, they're not going to get, all the freshest, best stuff, but no, it is. And it's really true. And, if you're not in a city center, you've got access to a lot of street side food vendors like that, that have access to all that as well. So really great optionality, but yeah, the pricing, it's really awesome. So if you like steak, like Jake and I, great place to be.
absolutely. Yes, again, here, this is taken just outside of Grand Pacifica or at one of the nearby beaches. And you see these boats in the top left going out every single night, and they're catching fresh fish, coming back in the mornings. You see a basket full of El Dorado or mahi mahi. Um, Lots of fresh opportunities. These fishermen even come by places like Grand Pacifica and will join us in some of the markets that we have, and so you can get the opportunity to buy fresh cuts of fish like this, and not just limited to mahi mahi, but lots of other types as well. All right, so Nicaragua is still a hidden gem. There are many natural and historical treasures that lie in Nicaragua. If you're like me, I'm a giant history nerd, so going down there and being able to walk around cities like Granada and seeing old volcanoes that were here long before lots of us, that was very, very, very cool to see. Um, it is It has opportunities, like I said, with the volcano. The Masaya volcano, I believe, is one of 20 volcanoes that you can drive up to the rim and to the crest of the rim and look down into the volcano. And I believe it's one of the only ones that is an active volcano. Places like Granada are very historically significant. New Granada was founded in 1524, and a lot of people are really looking forward to become a UNESCO World Heritage Site. That would be fantastic for tourism. It's been on review for some years now, so hopefully we see it come through. I think that would make a lot of people and a lot of locals very, very happy. And here's just a map of different places in Nicaragua. So if you look down at the bottom right, you'll see San Juan del Sur, which is a very popular surfing area, very popular tourism and travel area as well. And then if you look at the top left, that's Leon. Leon is actually home to the only UNESCO World Heritage Site in Nicaragua, and that is the ruins of Leon Viejo. Is one of the oldest Spanish colonial settlements that was also founded in 1524 by Francisco Hernandez de Cordoba. And Cordoba is actually the form of money that they use. Now, while that is true, a lot of places also accept US dollars as well. All right, so this just also gives more opportunities to see the kinds of things that you can do while in Nicaragua. Volcano boarding is on my list. When I learned about that, and I didn't have time to do it when I was there in March, but absolutely, that is something that I must get done. It is, I mean, it looks very, very fun. I've seen some pictures and videos of Mike doing it. He ended up with a couple bruises and scrapes, but I'll just have to take a video of me doing it to show him up. I think I'll be a little bit better at it than him, but don't hold
Yeah,
my.
and I would highly recommend having been, if you either join us on our tour or solo by yourself whenever it's convenient. The Messiah volcano is truly special to see. I mean, you can always see the outside of volcanoes from afar, but to get to drive up to one and especially I heard at night, I was there during the day, so you couldn't quite see the lava, but you could certainly smell the sulfur and see the smoke rising. But to see that is pretty neat. So highly recommend that for folks that haven't been and are looking for things to do when they come.
Right, and see the oldest, if you, yes, this cathedral right here, that is La Catedral de Cordoba, which is the oldest still in use cathedral in all of Central America and for many, many other parts of the Americas as well. This is kind of attesting to that, one of the reasons why the locals and other people in Nicaragua are looking for Granada to become a UNESCO World Heritage Site. That is one of the main reasons. While we're on our discovery tours, in that picture is, right around where we stay during our day in Nicaragua, and you can see the lake right behind it as well. We do a lake trip. It is absolutely stunning. Right in front of that cathedral, there is a lot of open area, a giant courtyard where many people spend their days and, eat lunch during their work day and things like that. It's a very, very beautiful area, all cobblestone, absolutely stunning.
But Jake, you didn't mention the best part, and one of people's favorite things on our tours is the bate chocolate place.
Oh yeah.
It is quite
Bate chocolate.
personally, I've seen chocolate made and how it's made a bunch of times, but there's something about the way they do it. It's very interactive and it's always a very, very fan favorite on our tours. So highly recommend, even just for that. But yeah, Granada, a lot of these cities are really spectacular in what they have to offer. So we do spend some time there during our tour, so you can check all that out.
Yeah, it's easily one of the favorites and most memorable parts of a lot of people's time with us on the tours. Here we get to talk about the amazing year-round climate. Places in Nicaragua, like where Gran Pacifica is located, experience 300 days a year and annually of sunshine. I'm originally from Chicago, so going to places like that are a big win for me. I absolutely love it. Um, and then you can see in the pictures here, there's a lot of great opportunities. And Nicaragua really is one of those places that has every single kind of landscape. It really, really does. You can see there in the canyons and the mountains in the bottom right where people go out kayaking and go on tours through those canyons. Absolutely stunning. And then in the top right, that is the Atlantic side of the country where people really enjoy going scuba diving and snorkeling and get to see a lot of the wildlife that lands in those outside reefs, as well as surfing. That is on my bucket list too. I think it's going to be a while till I get to that one, unfortunately.
You have a big bucket list there, Jake.
I know, man. I got a lot to do. It's going to be a beautiful life.
But yeah, so Jake just kind of touched upon Nicaragua and really some great opportunities about why someone might look at it. But now we're going to talk about the benefits of investing in Nicaragua, and a frequent conversation that people are always asking when having chats with us is always about ownership. Can I buy property? Can I own property in these other countries? Yeah, and that's one of the great things about Nicaragua. I know a lot of folks look at Mexico, and if you're looking at the border, if you're looking at the waterfront, that can't be owned. So, that element in Nicaragua, you can own property, no problem. They're treated, foreigners are treated the same as domestic investors. So that element, it's great. You can get the title to it. One thing to note, it is a civil law country, a little bit different than our common law countries. At the end of the day, you're getting title. It's just slightly different because it's got a Spanish name. But on top of that, the property taxes are very low. In the US, people's property taxes are astronomical. It's a whole another big bill you got to deal with. And in Nicaragua, it's around 1%. So quite low numbers from that perspective as well. So really, really awesome there. The next thing I'll touch upon is residency. For folks that are maybe looking at just getting a plan B, certainly can do that. But, for folks that are going to spend some time in Nicaragua, your options are basically to every 90 days go and take a trip to Costa Rica or Honduras or back to the US to get your visa restamped, because you're only allowed on your tourist visa to remain in country for those 90 days. So, with that being said, if you're going to be spending some time in Nicaragua, you certainly want to work on a residency at some point. So for folks that are above age 45, you can qualify for the pensioner program. Really, they just want to see that you have the ability to support yourself. So if you move down, you've got either Social Security or some other type of investments that would then qualify you. Conversely, if you're someone who's got some more resources, or you want maybe to buy an investment property, you can do that through the investor program. That minimum is $30,000. So it just kind of depends where you are at, what your plans are, and what your goals are. But we're certainly happy to kind of go over those with you and get you connected, so you can talk about those residency options and what might be best for your certain situation. So in terms of living in Nicaragua, I think a lot of folks, that's an important thing. I mean, people hear about the history of Nicaragua and they get a little bit scared, but Nicaragua is really becoming quite popular. And we actually this morning just saw an article out of Vogue that Nicaragua could be the next IT destination. And so whether you like Vogue, credit Vogue, don't credit Vogue, whatever, I mean, it's certainly starting to come out as a very popular destination for folks. I mean, Jake just walked through the geography. Whether you like to surf on the Pacific or scuba dive and fish on the Caribbean side, you've got a lot of opportunities, and just that affordability. I mean, when people retire and go to places like Florida or whatever, I mean, your dollar doesn't go that far anymore. And in a place like Nicaragua, you can live quite handsomely. So the secret is definitely getting out for folks. And that's why we, 25 years ago in the year 2000, actually had the opportunity to buy some land in Nicaragua. And, we maybe thought we were a little bit ahead of the curve, but that's kind of what we do, is develop all throughout the region. Even though it might be lower on that destination curve we showed earlier, we saw the beauty of it. I mean, I like to call it Costa Rica 2.0. It's got the beautiful oceans. It's got the ability to grow whatever. And so for a lot of folks, I think it's a great opportunity. And so we, in 2000, bought about 3.5 miles of beachfront. In total, we have 2,500 acres. Jake talked about that climate. It's really hard to beat. We're the closest beachfront to Managua, and about an hour and a half from the airport. And then, the other thing to note is, since we've been doing this for 25 years now, we have communities up and running. So if you said, hey, tomorrow you're looking for a vacation, you can come down, check it out, and stay and see everything. So this is just a brief master plan of kind of what we have envisioned for the whole property. This doesn't even encompass it all, but we're going to talk about the neighborhoods that exist today. We actually started right here where the condos are, and then went into our single family home community right here. And then we're going to talk about some of our tiny homes and other opportunities over here, but a lot to develop. So certainly some great opportunities all across the spectrum. And like I talked about, we're already up and running in that. I mean, we certainly are constantly developing, so that you'll see some of the photos do look like construction sites. Those are our projects getting built, but we have a lot of infrastructure and sidewalks, paved roads. I think that's another one, people kind of take for granted, places like the US and the rest of the Western world. I mean, about 4 years ago, we finished the last brick to get to Gran Pacifica. So before that, very bumpy roads and took a lot of time. Now you've got a perfectly paved road all the way there. So those kind of things are really important. And, we've actually brought it to life here. So this is the neighborhood. We're going to talk a little bit more about it, but this is the neighborhood, the single family home neighborhood I was talking about, right on the golf course. We have 9 holes currently, so plan to expand that as well. Some of them have great ocean views. Some of them are more on the golf course side, but single family homes that are, I would say anywhere from about 1,500 square feet up to, I think there's one that a couple of friends built together that's like 5,000 square feet, so quite large. For folks that don't want something big that they got to think about and take care of, we have condominiums as well. This is one of our latest buildings. These were more kind of geared towards folks coming maybe down for the winter, It's not like a big unit for folks to stay in, but you know, it's got all the amenities that right around there. There's the restaurant, the pools, and then really truly spectacular sunset views. I mean, unobstructed views every night. You get a beautiful sunset. So that's another option for folks. We're just touching on these, but we'll get into them in more detail. If you're sitting there and you say, hey, I really like the condos, you know, certainly reach out to us after the webinar. We'll be happy to provide you with all that kind of information. But these are just to give you ideas of what we have at our property, just to show you the variations. Now, this is a great photo. I mean, you know, when you're in a place like Nicaragua, it certainly in the summer months can get quite warm. We've been very big on communities, and you know, when people are able to walk outside their homes and walk in the shade and the nice shade down to visit their friends or their neighbors, you know, it really helps create that community. And that's really important when you're in a place like Nicaragua. Maybe you're moving or you're snowboarding and you want to meet people. It's little things like this that make a big difference. Otherwise, that's a you know 95-degree sidewalk and no one ever traverses it. So it's important to have that kind of vegetation, those kind of elements in place to make sure that you know the community can really exist. So here's some other photos of some of the homes and then some of the folks. A lot of the homes tend to be big inside outside spaces. So folks, you see like the covered porch on the second floor there on the left. That's for, you know, nice weather. You can sit outside most nights, every night. But yeah, that's how most homes tend to be developed. And a lot of our neighborhoods, they really are more so home sites where you can custom build. You can use one of our pre-designed models. Then we've got other neighborhoods like we'll touch on here. These are some of our newer neighborhoods, the tiny homes, if some of you are familiar with what we've got going on, where we've kind of preset some models. But I'll let Jake talk about the Ava models and go from there.
Thank you, thank you. So you can see here the Ava models are right there, and to the left you'll take a peek at the Bella neighborhood just in front of Ava. But Ava is right there, walking distance to the beach. If you look right above where it says Ava, that is the beginning of the Asuchillo Beach, where there's major surf competitions and tournaments going on all the time. That's actually one of the things that we're looking forward to having more of with our marketing and development team. So keep an eye out for some of those if you are into surfing. Um, there's easy access to that beach right there. So, and we also, if it's pretty small, but you can see it on there. We've got a yoga palapa as well for people to go do yoga. And a little bit north of where this is where those future developments will be coming in as well. So a lot of great things happening at Ava. And Ava is actually our flagship eco-friendly tiny home community. So it's perfect for those seeking a minimalist lifestyle with a sustainability aspect in mind as well. It's a great affordability with, you know, as you can see in the bottom left, prices starting from just 139.9. Getting that close to the Pacific Ocean is one of those only things that can happen in a place like Nicaragua. You know, I've had a lot of conversations with people that were like, or telling me, you know, Jake, I went to Costa Rica in the early 2000s and I wish I got in then. Well, unfortunately, things like this just aren't very, you know, possible in Costa Rica anymore, especially on the Pacific side. Looking at places like Nicaragua are that next Costa Rica that people wish that they got into early on, back in the early 2000s. So it's an absolutely fantastic opportunity. And again, as you can see here, absolutely easy access to the beach, amazing swimming places for you and your kids as well, the Bella neighborhood, and then up to the left, the San Diego Viejo neighborhood, which will be a lot of it, right around where you know, the main parts of the resort are, with a bunch more developments coming in the future as well. So here we have real pictures of one of our completed Bella homes. Again, like Joe mentioned earlier, this is a part of the development and part of the resort that is still under construction. Our Bella homes are absolutely beautiful. When you're standing there looking at the Bella homes, you get to open it up those big sliding glass doors and you're walking right out to the beach right there. Amazing sunsets as you can see, and we've got two-bedroom options for Bella as well as two separate three-bedroom, two-bath options. So really kind of that is the luxury part of that we offer at Gran Pacifica. So absolutely stunning, and a lot of people are looking to retire down and enjoy one of those homes. Here we've got our Mila homes. another one of our very luxurious and eco-friendly homes. It features both 1 and 2 story homes that come in 2 and 3 bedroom models as well. The sustainability gardens and mango gardens, mango trees, I should say rather, are going to be right there in this neighborhood as well. So absolutely easy access to that, and also just about a 15-minute walk to the beach and to everything at the center of Gran Pacifica. Here we've got our San Diego Viejo homes. A lot of those homes that you saw earlier with the big pools in them are in the San Diego Viejo neighborhood. This is actually named right after the beach that's right there in front of this community, and it is the original community here at Gran Pacifica. These pictures right here are actually just renderings, I'm sure you can tell, of just other models that we have available to build at San Diego Viejo. So keep in mind that those are just renderings. But again, like Joe said, this is where we find a lot of those, covered walkways and streets and all cobblestone roads with also, some homes with golf course views as well as oceanfront views. So absolutely stunning area to be living as well and to call home.
Yeah, and I will just add that, we have our renderings for folks. Some people look at them and say, hey, I'd like to add another bathroom. Other folks say, hey, I don't like that at all. Can I, build my own custom home? Absolutely. Typically it does tend to be more local Nicaraguans that go the custom route just because they know architects, they know builders and things like that. But if you're someone who likes to oversee that, you can certainly have as much say in that as you'd like. These are just to kind of get the wheels spinning for folks if they don't really want that creativity or to think about it. Just say, hey, I want a 1 floor home that's this, and that, or hey, I want this 2 story model, just to give people ideas.
All right, so here we have our Santa Barbara home sites. That could become your absolute dream home. Again, as you can see on the left, those first 2 pictures are renderings of what is possible to build at Santa Barbara. And you look at that, and that looks like absolute tranquility. And that picture on the right is one of our homes that's already there. Essentially a compound, one would say. It is beautiful, it's big, it stands out, and the gentleman that lives there is very, very happily, secure, feels secure and private and enjoying his life exactly the way that he wants it. Santa Barbara features premium oceanfront and golf course home sites available, perfect for those potential homeowners that have the desire to build the house that they've been dreaming about for their entire life, right on the ocean for a fraction of the cost. Like we talked about for California, absolutely much more cost effective to do something like that down in Nicaragua than, unfortunately never get to live your dream of owning a home like that in places like San Diego or California.
And so just to kind of surmise that, just because there is a lot of information as always, we have opportunities from, 400 square foot tiny homes up to 5,000 plus square foot mega homes. That's where kind of myself, Jake, and the rest of our team come in handy. So if you said, hey, ideally I want 2 bed, 2 baths, 1,500 square feet, we can help you with some options. Do you want to be in San Diego Viejo? Do you want a Santa Barbara home? We can help you have those conversations. So just kind of have an idea of what you like, and then we can kind of see what would be best fits for you. And then you can have that ultimate decision. But yeah, we just like to show that we do all different size homes. Some people like condos, so they can just lock their room and leave. Some people like large estate homes if they have big families or are living there full time. So it just depends what you're looking for. But at Gran Pacifica, we have a lot going on. I mean, fishing's a big one. Jake talked about the fresh fish, but recreationally for folks, surfing as well is big because we're on the Pacific Ocean. So we get those really nice barrel waves that come in all day, as long as the tide's coming and going. Horseback riding, we have stables on the property, so folks can do that. I highly recommend doing some kind of either sunrise or sunset horseback riding. It's certainly a joy, even though I'm not a big horseback riding person, but I went to do it to see our teak farms. We have teak farms as well, but that was kind of a fun experience. And then a spa. So these are just some of them. We do, like I said, have golf. We have frisbee golf, tennis court, soccer, basically whatever owners and people are asking for, we'll try to put it in. So, really there's a lot of amenities. And as we continue to grow and expand, we'll continue to add on to those as well. This is a picture of Grant and Sasha. If you come down to Nicaragua, there's a good chance you'll either meet them or run into them. Their owners, they moved down about 4 years ago. They're very helpful for showing people around if we're not around and things like that. But very integrated with the community. And I think a lot of folks, I think that's really one of the benefits of Gran Pacifica is the community. I mean, Grant and Sasha are wonderful. A lot of our other owners are spectacular as well. So really great group of owners living there. So we do a lot with the local community. And some people might not enjoy it, but it's important to be involved in the local community, from beach cleanups to gardening. A couple of discovery tours ago, we actually worked with the local school right around us to repaint their school. It was really in rough condition. Certainly wasn't the most fun for folks, but I think it's really ultimately very important to be involved if you're going to be investing, spending time in a place, to be involved in the local community, so that they can help you out too if one day that's needed. But medical assistance, another big one that we're involved in is our sea turtle sanctuary. A lot of local Nicaraguans will actually hunt the sea turtle eggs, and then they will take them and go to Nicaragua and to Managua and sell them. So we're able to buy them kind of at a middle ground there, so that they don't have to waste their time going to Managua. And then we raise the sea turtles, and then we have these big events when they're ready to hatch, where folks can come out and witness them. And I mean, they're pretty gosh darn cute, I must say, but certainly fun. But families, I mean, there's a family here for Christmas, so great community that's in place. Like I said, the sea turtle thing, it really becomes quite the spectacle. A lot of kids come out, a lot of locals will come over. I'm not a sea turtle expert. I can't remember when they hatch, but there are very specific times. So if that's something of interest, let us know, and we'll be happy to give you kind of a ballpark. And Alejandro, who's pictured there, he's kind of the head of that, so he knows these things way better than I. But certainly a neat thing to come and witness and experience.
Absolutely.
And for those of you who like to golf clubhouse, this is where the tennis and also the soccer pitch is. You can see a lot of folks like to get around via golf cart on property. Folks can also use bikes or cars or whatnot, but a lot of folks like to use golf carts once there. But yeah, just a couple of different things for folks to do. Weddings, we get a lot of weddings, typically local weddings, come out on the weekends, like the beautiful sunsets, the beautiful ocean views. So a lot of great things outside of our property coming in to use the beauty of it. One other thing, for Jake had just touched upon this, but this is for each community, we like to have a community garden. The thought was to let people grow their own stuff, whether they wanted to have that kind of space. In this community, a lot of the owners said, hey, we don't really want to do the day in, day out gardening. So we kind of took that over. But, we as a company like to do a lot of planting of fruit, vegetables, whatever can grow well in that region, just to give people that freshness, that locality, and not have to rely heavily on, the big box stores. So that's one of our communities. You can see, I think those are, I want to say plantains, maybe bananas going in there, but some other community things we can see. Our owners are about a year ago or so, maybe more, got together, and everyone started producing various different goods and services and knickknacks and whatnot. And so every Friday they get together and have created a little market. I was just there, and one of the gentlemen's was creating bagels, and I was eating them. They were good. But yeah, I mean, another owner, he has his own farm, so he produces milk, eggs, all those kind of things. Honey, we have a bunch of bees on property. So we like to be involved in the community, but we also like to kind of be self-sustainable in a lot of ways as best as possible.
Right. And just to touch on that, even somebody like Grant, who, has been there for 4 years, he's been going to that market for years. And I think, we both saw he's got his own little 3D printer in his home. And there's no limit to what you can bring to the market to sell. Grant is making little, things with his 3D printer, like a phone platforms to hold it up for you, when you're sitting at a desk or something like that. Exactly. There it is. Yeah, perfect.
I don't know if it's
Yeah,
gonna.
I've got one as well. So,
Yeah.
the opportunities are endless. Make it fun. If you have little things that you like to do, knit, anything like that, feel free to bring it to the market. Everybody's got something to offer.
Yep, and these are just some photos of some of the mango trees. You can see they are absolutely enormous. Our last discovery tour, they were still green, so they weren't quite ripe, but a lot of those as well. You know, we've got a ton of space, and not all of it is going to be developed. I mean, you don't want to have home after home after home. So certain spaces like these, you know, close to the entrance of the property, able to plant a lot of citrus and whatnot. And these trees have been growing for quite some time and produce quite a lot of mangoes. So if you like mangoes, um, endless opportunities there. Food forest, it's something we want to start doing in a lot of our other communities, you know, create this cyclical cycle, so to speak. So you have all these various vegetations that play off one another to create this self-sustaining gardening. And, you know, we think that's quite important. A lot of folks ask about that, access to fruit, vegetables, food, and whatnot. So we figure might as well plant it with the land we have. So, and these are just a couple more photos of some of the homes, so you can just see what they look like.
Yeah,
And these
get an
are,
idea of what's possible, what you can expect down there, folks.
yep, and these are in San Diego Viejo again. So it's the single family homes. It's one of our more established communities, so we have a lot more homes there. This is Mila again. This is one of the two-story models for folks. Some more homes. You'll see a lot of the single family homes have pools. We also have a couple other pools near the condominiums as well. So for renters, for guests, they have access to that. But then the homes will have, a lot of them have their own private pools as well. So a lot of different styles, a lot of different shapes, a lot of different opportunities depending on what fits your needs and objectives. A lot of covered palapa space, very easy to put up, saves you a lot of that direct sunlight when you're outside. Awesome sunsets.
Very, very much.
Don't have
Yeah,
to wait.
I was walking the beach every single day that I was there, taking pictures and enjoying the sunsets. And you know, the one of the underrated things is just the miles of walkable beach that are there, you know, from Gran Pacifica. It is absolutely beautiful. You can walk up and down that beach for a beautiful sunrise if you are a morning person, or a wonderful sunset as well.
Yeah, and the great element to add there is, you know, because we have so much land, it really doesn't mean there's much building around us. So, you know, our beaches are pretty open. They're, you know, you'll see a couple surfers here and there, but it's not like you're in Miami Beach where there's people, you know, every square inch. So that element's really nice too. Kind of makes it feel more secluded and allows you that serenity. This is that home in Santa Barbara. So you really have quite a lot of different options to choose from. You see the kids. I mean, we have two kind of notable big surf breaks. One is a more advanced called the meat grinder. If you're a surfer, certainly can tackle that one. But this is the other one by the tiny homes. This is where kids will learn. Very sandy beach, so very forgiving if you have if you're a learner. And then golf. I mean, if you're a golfer, you know, it's something you can do. If you're not a golfer, it's just something pretty to look at. But yeah, we have some great holes that are right along the ocean there. So very fun to play. And then horseback riding, like I said, highly recommended at some point, whether it's a sunrise, sunset, but pretty neat. And like I said, you can see there's really no one else besides them. So really cool experience. So
Yeah.
definitely.
Oh, go ahead, Joe.
No, I was just going to say, you know, we highly recommend coming and checking it out. Jake will kind of get into, you know, the discovery tour, some current opportunities for folks, but you know, Gran Pacifica has a lot to offer for whatever people like, but I would highly recommend, always tell people, you know, you've seen the material, you've seen pictures, you know, it all looks good, but certainly coming and checking it out is the next best step. And that's why we do these discovery tours, because if you're not familiar with Nicaragua, if you're maybe not so certain, you know, we kind of are the easy button, right? We do all the arrangements, we get the group together. It's a lot of like-minded individuals, so would highly recommend it. But Jake, I'll let you talk about some of the current opportunities.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you're watching this and you know you think you can find this or find a way to call this place home, and I hope that some of you do in the future. It's beautiful. We have move-in ready opportunities. You know, whether you're looking to take take and make the move down there, or you're looking for something that's turnkey like this right here. This is Ava 49 for just under $100,000. I mean, furniture included, ideal for surfers or digital nomads, a true turnkey opportunity. It's the same with this, the Ava Halkin. This is going to be a two-story model, but a one bedroom, one bathroom, also furnished, short walk to the beach for just under 200,000. So a lot of great opportunities in Ava. Here's Ava 32, listed for 168.5. This is our two bed, two bath. This is one of the more popular models, as you know, along with a two bed, two bath, more room for your family, more room for other families to come and enjoy your property. An absolute fantastic place to generate some return on your investment. And you can put it on our rental program and block off dates that you want to come down and visit. It's very, very easy to get done. Here's one of our Bella homes, three bed, two bath option. Walk out the door right into the ocean. And then to your left, when you're standing there looking at the ocean, is a community pool as well. Just absolutely stunning views and a great place to spend a few nights or become an owner.
Great. And just a couple other points, we do a lot of different things. We've been heavily involved in accepting crypto for quite some time. People frequently ask what cryptos, and we have a list. Typically, it's a lot of the big ones, Bitcoin, Litecoin, Ethereum, a lot of the stable coins. But send us a note if that's something that interests you. Obviously, with crypto at all-time highs, we also do gold as well. So if you've got a nice portion of that you're looking to diversify away, we can certainly help you there. In terms of self-directed IRAs, certainly welcome to use that if you have one, if you're looking to use that, as well as financing. A lot of folks find it hard to find financing in Central America, and we've kind of navigated that. So if you're looking for financing, we have options there as well. So something to consider.
So I will be there in August. I would love for some of you to come join me. I'll be down there leading a discovery tour from August 10th to the 16th through all of Nicaragua. Obviously we will get to Gran Pacifica, but we want to give everybody a little taste of what's around there that the whole country provides. So from August 10th to the 16th, we'll be arriving in Managua. We'll take a bus up to Malagalpa. We go visit one of the pristine coffee farms, stay there for a night or two. I'm not the one that plans it all, so I don't know which day we'll do what, but I know that these are the main things that we will hit. We'll go visit the coffee farm in the mountain region. It's fantastic. We go on night hikes where we get to see beautiful, animals, and there's little ponds with frogs and all of that. Right there you can see a beautiful picture of one of the insects that was kind of one of the ones that, you stop and it just kind of blows your mind at how big it is, but it is truly just beautiful. The nice thing about these things is that you do not have to worry just on me taking you around spewing out information all day. We hire local tour guides to come with us and give us better ideas of what's going on there. They're a little bit more keen on the history than I am and everything like that. So it's a wonderful opportunity to get to see and experience the whole country to yourself. In the top right, you'll see we take you to one of the local hospitals to give you an idea on the healthcare. That's a guided tour as well. So you can sit there and speak with, some of the healthcare providers on their options available. We want to make sure that you feel at home, moving to Nicaragua and coming to Gran Pacifica. In the bottom right of that last picture, real quick, Joe, is the inside of, the place that we were staying right outside that cathedral there in Granada. That's an indoor pool. It's absolutely beautiful. Great place to have breakfast and coffee in the morning. So again, just one of those things where people really get to learn to love and enjoy the culture, food, and get to see yourself becoming an owner there one day. And here, one of my pictures that I took while I was there in March is that beautiful sunset that we've been harping on this entire time. It is really outstanding, folks. I truly can't speak enough more about it. You get to walk out on those rocks. Careful, it's a little slippery sometimes out on those rocks, but it is absolutely worth it to go out there and enjoy yourself. And then to the right, we have these guided tours where myself, Grant, and Sasha, and other members of our Gran Pacifica team will be taking you in golf carts all around an entire tour of Gran Pacifica. So you get to see everything that goes on there from the day-to-days, and as well as this is us going into one of those homes right there in the Mila neighborhood, getting to explore it. So everybody gets to see the insides, just get a better view of an idea of what's possible and what you can expect there.
And I will mention one other thing, the dates Jake gave, a lot of folks, what we've seen in the past is, they come, they do the tour, there's a lot of information, there's a lot of various sightseeing. It can be quite exhausting. And so a lot of folks will add a few days. We'll finish the tour at Gran Pacifica, folks will typically sometimes add 2, 3, 4 a week or whatever onto that and stay at the property, to get a better sense, especially if you're going to think about spending time there, investing, living there, to get a better sense. Just because we're moving around so much, it can kind of sometimes feel a little exhausting. So that's just something I've seen a lot of our various clients do in the past examples. But with that, we have finished the PowerPoint. I hope we have some questions in the Q&A box, but Jake, if you don't mind just looking through those, and then you can ask them away. And
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the questions, we touched on earlier is the scuba diving options in Nicaragua. Obviously, you can scuba dive on the Pacific side and places around Gran Pacifica. But absolutely, the number one place to do that would be over on the Atlantic side, around the Corn Islands as well.
yeah, and there's two islands. You've got Little Corn and Big Corn. Their Little Corn especially is very remote. I know Mike and his family like to go there because there's very little cell reception. You can really relax and kind of go off grid, so to speak, there. But it's very, very, very different than the Pacific side. So yeah, I would say if you're into scuba diving and whatnot, certainly say more on the Caribbean side. But the Big and Little Corn Islands are definitely a great spot for that.
Absolutely. Yeah, folks, if you would just if you have been to Nicaragua as well, please just type into the Q&A just yes, if you have been. We'd love to see kind of how many people are joining these webinars that are getting you're giving us an idea of who's been there and who's interested in learning more and potentially going back. Um, so another question is there a language barrier and what is the main language of this country?
Yeah, it's certainly Spanish. Now at our property, most of our owners are North Americans, US Canadian. So you can certainly be involved and communicate easily within Gran Pacifica. When you go to like the Hyatt, which is where we stay, I mean, there's Best Western, there's a lot of like traditional US hotel chains. You can have no problem at getting by with those. Now, if you start to get off the beaten path, you get into local towns, you're probably going to want to know some Spanish. I personally just have Spanish downloaded in my Google Translate. Worst case scenario, you do a couple hand signals and you can get by. But within our community, and then like I said, Managua, the airport, the hotels there, the big shops, you can get by with English. But if you're going to be living there, I would say it's certainly worthwhile. I know a couple of owners who have had hired help for like maids or cooks. And then they'll teach that person some English, and then but conversely they'll learn some Spanish from them. So kind of have that two-way street. But yeah, ultimately, if you're going to be spending some time, I would try to pick up at least the basics. But no, you can get by certainly at our property.
Absolutely. Yeah. My Spanish is far from fluent. But going around and wandering off on my own or taking people on the discovery tour to different areas. Everybody's very, very kind in Nicaragua, which was fantastic to experience. When I'm trying to answer questions or ask questions in Spanish and they know that I'm struggling, nobody's blowing me off or anything like that. So that's, if you have remedial Spanish as well, don't be afraid. I'm sure you'll be able to get by just fine.
Yeah, and if
Um,
for some reason you don't feel very comfortable with that, I mean, the great part about our community is everyone's very helpful. So if you said, "Hey, I don't quite understand Spanish well enough, can I ride with you to go to Managua to go to X, Y, and Z shop or whatnot?" People are very, very open and helpful in that regard. So, yeah, probably would learn some basics. I will say honestly, I do not speak Spanish. Unfortunately, I learned French back in school. That was not a my decision, but just the way the cards fell. Super unhelpful in my day-to-day life now, but I can tell you, yeah, I can certainly get by. So, but occasionally you got to do those hand signals and you make it work. So,
All right. So what is the type of money they use in this country? Again, that's the Cordoba. We touched a little bit upon the buying power, but it is the Cordoba. So, a lot of times when I'm trying to figure out what things are going to cost while I'm there, it's an easy go into Google and, type in USD to Cordoba. Very, very easy to get that done and get an understanding.
and two, I will say, folks ask, "Hey, I'm coming on the tour. Like, how should I deal with this?" Credit cards are accepted in most places. If you go to those little street vendors that Jake showed you earlier on, there you're going to need some cash. But at restaurants, hotels, stuff, I mean, American Express, no problem. The other thing too is there's ATMs at the airport. There's
Mm.
also at some of the various stores that will stop throughout the tour, where you can get some cash. I wouldn't recommend getting a ton out because, you know, you got all those conversions and whatnot when you're trying to convert it back. But, you know, it's probably good to have some cash. You can also carry dollars. People will accept that, but there's opportunities to get cash. One tidbit I will say, and I know Jake learned this one
I knew it.
this trip,
I knew
is
it.
when you land in Nicaragua, you get what's called a tourist visa. It's like any country. It is 10 US dollars. So, you know, bring a 10 US dollar bill. You can bring a 20 and get change or whatnot, but I would bring a 10. So it is good to have some cash. So, you know, have some US cash, get some local Cordoba when you're in Nicaragua, but there's opportunities to do that. But at worst case scenario, credit cards, no problem as well for you know, using that.
Yes, I did learn that the hard way. For some reason, that was one of the small things that slipped my mind. And luckily, I made friends with the gentleman in front of me, and he gave me a $10 bill to help me get through. But yes, absolutely bring $10 cash with you when landing in Nicaragua. Um, Another question here is it's in the Ring of Fire. What are the chances of serious earthquakes in the area? I think I would say to that, unfortunately, nobody has a crystal ball. We don't really know. It is in that area of Central America. But Joe, have you, since you've been with the company, have you heard about any earthquakes going on around there?
Okay, personally, I have not, but Mexico, I experienced one of my first earthquakes and I did not enjoy it. That said, you know, like Jake said, there's no crystal ball, but you know, we understand that that exists. That is certainly a threat. And so we do develop to those earthquake standards. You can kind of see in this photo, I mean, all of our buildings are with rebar, concrete. I mean, we're not building with wood. I mean, you can get rot, termites, all that kind of fun stuff. So everything we build is very, very, you know, it's going to last a very long time. And so if an earthquake hits, you know, and I know that they have, I haven't experienced one that's either woken me up or that I've noticed, but, you know, we don't turn blind eyes to things like that. We hit it, you know, spot on and just develop to make sure that that's not going to be an issue because we don't want to have to rebuild things. Nobody wants their home to be demolished. So, you know, for that, we just build to those standards.
Perfect. So another question here is, can you find organic produce in the markets or stores? Absolutely. In those fresh markets around the areas, even at Gran Pacifica itself, there is that fresh produce. And even you can, go enjoy some of our community and farms. That is absolutely fresh, organic produce for you to enjoy.
Yeah. And one of the slides a little bit earlier in the presentation, we talked about the community market, and a couple of our owners really kind of spearheaded that, but they too have that same kind of wishes and wants. We don't have a grocery store on property. That's not something, you know, we have enough folks to really do yet. Now, granted, we hope to one day get enough to be able to do that. But in the meantime, those owners have spearheaded a local organic farmer who takes your requests. So you say, hey, I'm going to want, you know, 10 tomatoes, you know, 3 zucchinis, whatever it may be, you text it to him. And then once a week on Fridays during that community market where all the other owners are selling their various products, he comes in and then does the deliveries. So, you know, avocados, various fresh fruits and whatnot. So that's an option. I know like I said, that one of the other owners owns a farm with milk. I think it's raw milk. So there's that. There's also the eggs. So there's a lot of various options. Now, if you say, hey, I'm from Vermont and I like my Vermont syrup, you can always order things. You're not getting Amazon 2-day shipping. You're probably getting more like a week or two, depending on if you go air versus the freight. So it just depends. But yeah, that, you know, for most folks, a lot of them will just use the farmers and whatnot delivery to supply most of their food. And then they'll maybe provision in Managua once a week or once a month, depending on what they are making to get various knickknacks. But yeah, for the most part, a lot of folks use that farmer for their deliveries.
Absolutely, yeah. Again, just so everybody knows that there will be a recording of this on YouTube. So if you have, if you want to get back on and rewatch some of it or you missed part of it, feel free to get on there. And, you know, if you have questions and, some questions that we may not be able to get to as we're running out of time here, you can email webinar@ecidevelopment.com or info@ecidevelopment.com and your property consultant will be getting in contact with you. Who knows? It may be Joe, maybe myself. We've got some other fantastic members of our team as well that will be happy to dive in a little bit more and give you more in-depth answers to some of these questions. Um, What is the topography? It looks fairly flat. Well, that all depends on what part of Nicaragua you are in. You know, Gran Pacifica is fairly flat. There is some, you know, if you're standing on the beach and you're looking to the north, it kind of curves around like that, and there'll be some slight mountains that I am absolutely going to be hiking when I go out there in August. So if anybody wants to come join me, bring your hiking shoes. We'll go out there and do that one of those days. Um,
Yeah,
but
I
yes,
will add
absolutely.
too. I mean, I think of Central America. I think of places like Nicaragua and the rest of Central America as this like super hot and warm environment. But I think a lot of people are shocked. I think it's usually the first day of the tour. We go up to Matagalpa, which is the coffee growing region.
Mhm.
And it's crazy how I won't say cold because I know what northern cold is like, but people are always shivering, like, oh, can I get an extra blanket the first night? Because they're, used to thinking it's going to be in the mid 90s or whatnot. And then it ends up being, I think mid 70s and then at night in the high 50s, low 60s. So very refreshing, very different than what you're, going to see at the beach, and you're right on the beach front with the nice sun beating on you all day. So
Absolutely. Yeah. Is it, so another question here is it easy to find a yard person or a caretaker?
yeah. Yeah, labor is very inexpensive. I know Mike always talks about when he was living there, our CEO for 14 years, raised two blonde-headed daughters, and they had some help. I think they paid like 250 bucks a month for that, and that was actually overpaying what the market is, which is crazy. But labor is very inexpensive. You can find those people. A lot of our folks that live on property, like for instance, I might have a yard keeper Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Jake might use him Tuesday, Thursday. That way, he's going to be on property. We can kind of split that and have that person kind of coming to multiple places. So certainly can help you with that. Not a problem.
Absolutely. Uh, did you get to see the green flash? No, I did not get to see the green flash. I looked for it, but I did talk to some locals that have seen it before.
And if you
Rest,
get a picture of it, please send it to us. We'd love to
yes.
hear it in one of these slideshows.
Mhm.
I always look for it. I think I blink every time. So haven't
Yeah,
seen
it's tough. It's tough to see. Restaurants, how many options are there
it.
at Grand Pacifica?
So right now we have one main one. It's called Sea Salt. As we expand into future developments, like for Ava, our tiny homes, we have a community palapa there. It has a bar for folks. We haven't really staffed it, but as we develop, we'll add more and more. There's also some restaurants right outside our gate. So if you eat at our place and get tired of it, there's some other options outside of our premise. A lot of folks will hire folks to provision for them at the grocery store and then make food for them. So there's options, but it'll grow as we develop more. But right now there's one main option for folks on property.
Perfect. Another question is how much is the Discovery Tour? Again, that'll be information that'll be sent out to everybody. So no worries about getting that. Another question here is the AC units are on the ground. Is that not a problem with high surf or flooding? Luckily, where the beach is and where Grand Pacifica is, it is raised up. So there is a large, you walk down a few steps. It's easy to get to the beach, but as far as any flooding or anything like that. It should
Uh,
not be an issue.
I think one other like paramount thing to talk about is, we as developers understand that there's a lot of rain in Central America. We're in the tropics. And so there's two things you can do. You can plan for the rain or you can just turn a blind eye to it. And we've seen, other properties, where they just say, hey, I don't care. And the rain goes where it wants to. That might mean, destroying your house, destroying your road, really destroying your property in general. And so we've done a lot of, management with water, making sure that when it drains into these estuaries or drains into this pond that's then used for the golf course. So a lot of that stuff, I mean, our first thing we did on property was spend millions of dollars to put in that infrastructure. It's not sexy. It's not what we want to do as developers. We'd rather, talk about homes, show these pretty photos. But if you don't do that kind of stuff, then your home just one rainstorm washes away and it's completely gone. So, that is something we spend a lot of time, effort, and money. So if you come to the property, you'll see a lot of the drainage and whatnot for that kind of stuff to happen. It does rain a lot in the summer, and you'll see there's really not any kind of big puddles or pooling of water. So that's all been meticulously planned for in the onset.
Perfect. All right. Um, How about access to
Maybe one or
prescription?
two more, and then we'll wrap it up. And then any questions we don't get to, we'll have our property consultants reach out. And
Yeah, and we have your names here, folks. So if you are in our system, we can absolutely take the rest of these questions that we didn't get to and answer them for you as well.
and if you join the tour, you'll have uninterrupted questions towards Jake and rest of our team. So always love to have those as well.
All right, all right. Let's find one or two more. All right, so vehicle import may not be worth it. Is it better to get there and just buy one locally?
Yeah, I would definitely recommend. There's a couple folks that basically buy really old like Toyotas and cars that last super long. And then they, kind of do like a refurbishment and sell them to usually a lot of like North Americans that move down to Nicaragua. So like Grant, for example, and Sasha, they drive like a 20-year-old Toyota, whatever it is. It drives really well. It's in great condition, very inexpensive. So yeah, I wouldn't go through the hassle personally, for whatever reason. And same with a lot of other mementos. I mean, Nicaragua does a lot of great crafts, a lot of handmade woodworking. And so to bring stuff down if you're moving is not really, I mean, it's a lot of expense. So unless it's something with a lot of sentimental value, I would say, sell it in the US or wherever you are, come move down, buy it, handcrafted locally, usually a lot better quality too. So, but for cars, I've talked to one guy recently who's big on motorcycles, so maybe something like that makes sense for you. But for most cars, I would just recommend getting them in country.
All right, so last question we're gonna do here is there 24/7 security at Gran Pacifica?
Yeah, good question. So the property itself, it has one road that goes into it, and it does come to a gate where we do have security. We like to keep track of who's going to be on property in terms of renters or overnight guests, just to make sure that that's I mean, if you don't have safety, you don't have a property. So we have that. We also have folks that ride around on horseback, just to take care of that. We also, for poachers, something as simple as poachers, we don't want someone coming and shooting some type of animal right on the property or endangering anyone. So yes, we take safety very, very seriously, and that's why we have the protocols in place. But yes, and the other thing I'll say to that is, like I mentioned earlier, we are about an hour and a half if you're from the airport to Managua, which is where the bulk of the population density is. So when you get out to the ocean there, it's our property. You got a lot of locals, but it's not a big number. So you're not dealing with a lot of a riffraff, so to speak. And so but you like to be proactive, get ahead of it, don't want to have any issues. So, and Nicaragua is very safe. So fortunately, we've not had issues with that.
Perfect. All right, folks. Thank you very much for joining us. I think that's going to wrap it up. Again, there's some questions that we did not get to, so we will be sure that one of the property consultants will be able to answer that for you. Please, email info@ecidevelopment.com or webinar@ecidevelopment.com with your questions, and we will be sure that one of Joe, I, or somebody else on our team answers all of those questions for you. And I really hope I get to meet some of you down there in August. Please come join me. It'll be a fantastic time. We get to see a lot of things, and you get to go somewhere. That if you asked me just a couple years ago, I had zero plans to go to Nicaragua, and now I can't wait to go back. It's absolutely beautiful. So thank you again, folks.
Well, thanks for spending time. And yeah, like Jake said, we hope to see you. If it's not our tour, come down whenever it's convenient for you. We'll get you connected with our hospitality team. Make sure you have a great stay. So thanks for joining again, wherever you are in the world, and we hope to see you again soon.
Thanks, everybody.